What are 3 things in a land title report that your real estate broker or agent should be checking for you? We want to answer that question in this video. So before we do that, we need to just quickly explain what is a land title report. If you haven't watched one of my other videos about that, you need a quick explanation. So sometimes people in the real estate industry will call those a preliminary title report or a preliminary report. That's what title companies like to call them, preliminary reports. It's a land title report. That's what it is. Okay, so what's a land title report? A land title report is an offer to insure land title to a particular piece of property. That's all it is. A lot of people treat it like it's something different, but it's not. It's pretty simple. It is that company's offer to insure a particular piece of property. So what does that mean? When I say offer to insure, you get insurance on land title. What that means is the title company's promising you that they will pay you some money if you buy a piece of property and somebody comes up and claims that they own some of that property or they own some rights in that property. And if the title company didn't tell you that ahead of time, that they might have an ownership interest, they're going to pay you. Okay, now there's all kinds of exceptions to when they'll pay. That's the general concept though. Okay, so title insurance is really important. A lot of people watch my videos, talk to me and think, oh, Landon just hates title insurance. No, title insurance is really important. You don't want to buy property without title insurance. Having said that, title insurance is also one of the most misunderstood things in the real estate industry, right? And the reason I sometimes get a little bit irritated is people think title insurance is a replacement for a land survey, and it's not. It's not a good replacement for a land survey. Okay, so most title reports contain 4 parts, 4 basic parts. Okay, every title report from every title company is going to have these 4 basic parts. Number 1, it's going to identify who the current owner of the land is. Number 2, it's going to identify what land is owned. Okay, it's going to have some kind of legal description. Usually they'll have an APN and an address as well. Number 3, they are going to give you exceptions to their insurance coverage. So there's a list of exceptions. They say, hey, we're going to insure title to this property with these exceptions. It's just like when you go to get car insurance. The car insurance says, hey, we're going to insure your car, but if you let your 13-year-old kid drink and drive, we're not going to cover you, or whatever. Nuclear war, that's another thing that's not usually covered in car insurance. Okay, so there's a list of exceptions to coverage, and then finally, usually at the end of the title report, there's a bunch of contract language, right? So that is the contract that you're entering with the title insurance company that's going to provide you title insurance. So there's a bunch of rules in there. When can the contract be terminated? How soon do they have to pay you? Blah, 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 blah. Bunch of stuff in there. Okay, so those are the 4 parts. So now that we know what a land title report is, what should your broker, at a minimum, your real estate broker agent, be checking in a land title report for you? Okay, they need to be checking for 3 things. At least these 3 things. Number 1, they need to be checking the identity of the owner. And they need to ask themselves, is the identity of the owner in the title report, does that match who's selling my client the property? Right? If the owner is listed as Landon Blake and Josh Blake is selling you the property, you might have a problem. Right? You need to check that out. The second thing they should be checking is they should be looking at the description of the land in the title report, and they should say, is this description of this land, is this what my client thinks they're buying, right? I've seen all kinds of situations where, not all kinds, but I've seen several situations in my career where people have thought they were buying one piece of property and ended up buying a different piece of property, right? That is no bueno. Okay, so you don't want to just rely on an address or an APN, right? Those are not legally sufficient descriptions of land. So your real estate broker needs to make sure that the land description that's in the title report is what you actually think you're buying, right? And they might need to work with a surveyor to do that, depending on how difficult the land description is. All right. The third thing is they should be looking at the exceptions to coverage, and they should see if there's any red flags in there, right? You want to make sure that you have adequate title insurance coverage when you buy the piece of property. If there's something in that title insurance report, that list of exceptions in the title report, that you or your broker doesn't understand, you need to ask questions. You need to talk to the title company, find out what's going on. Maybe you need to talk to a land title surveyor, right? I'll give you a quick example. I had a situation, that's about a year ago maybe. I had a gentleman call me. He had bought a really nice piece of property in the south of the Bay Area, up in the foothills. And it was a beautiful piece of property, a couple acres, and had a nice custom home on it. And he wanted to put in a pool. And after we talked to him a little bit and did some poking around in the records, we found out that it would be great. He wanted to put in like an Olympic-sized swimming pool. But the back 2/3 of his property was covered in a conservation easement. And the local jurisdiction wasn't going to let him put in a pool. Now that's something his real estate agent or broker should have seen in the title report and should have told them about, right? Okay, so that's an example. They should look at the exceptions to coverage. They should also tell you, the buyer, if there is an exception, what we call a survey exception in the list of exceptions for title insurance. So what that means, that could be a whole other video, but real quick, what that means is most of the time title companies will say, we're going to insure title except for any problem that a surveyor might find. We're not going to cover that, right? The problem with that exception is there's a huge amount of things that fall into that, right? So if you have that exception in your title insurance policy, you're not paying for very much, right? And there are ways to get that exception removed, and almost certainly if you're buying property for investment or business purposes, you should be doing that. You should be looking at how to remove the survey exception. Okay, finally, just another quick thing is the broker should also be working with the land title company to answer any questions you might have about the contract terms. That's the last part of the title report. Maybe the broker needs to talk to an attorney, depending on how valuable the deal is and how complicated it is. But you want to make sure that you've got reasonable contract terms in your title insurance policy. There are good title companies and there are bad title companies. I have seen some really horrible language from title companies in offers to insure. And so you want to get that fixed because you don't want to pay for insurance that is worthless, right? That doesn't cover anything. And if you've got a title insurance company that won't take out those kinds of clauses in their contract, then you need to find another title company, right? Call me. I can refer you to some good title folks if you need me to. So don't forget, if you are going to pay a real estate broker or agent their commission on a real estate transaction, they should have a title report. They should read your title report, and they should be able to answer questions about that title report. Primarily these three things. Who's the owner of the property in the title report? Does that match who I think is selling me the property? Number two, am I buying the land I think I'm buying based on the description in the title report? And number three, is there anything scary or nasty in the list of exceptions to insurance coverage that's in the title report? Get the answers to your three questions, to those three questions about a land title report. If your broker won't answer those questions for you, get a new broker. That's part of their job.